Hey, this is Jason Warner Smith, and you are listening to Mark Jolliffe on Infinite Banter.
Infinite Banter podcast, baby.
Here it is, another episode of the Infinite Banter podcast, a Halloween episode. My name is Mark Jolliffe, also known as DJ Soundwave. Thanks for checking out the show. This is the Halloween edition of the Infinite Banter podcast. I've done a couple of these in the 6 years I've been doing the show, so it's good to get another one here and put it out for you guys on Halloween. I promoted in the last episode, if you remember, that I was going to have director Warren Skeels, who directed The Man in the White Van. He is on the show today. We're going to talk about that movie and a lot more as well. And I also have an Infinite Torture segment. That's where I make myself watch something I've never seen before. And to be honest, I'm thinking it's going to be bad. That's why I didn't watch it. This one lives up to all the thoughts, because I thought it was going to be bad, and it is what it is. The Burning. I don't want to spoil my thoughts on it. Stay tuned for Infinite Torture. After Warren Skeels here, I will talk about The Burning from 1981. I have some thoughts on it. Go watch it on Tubi if you haven't seen it yet. Definitely excited to do this episode. I don't know that Halloween is my favorite holiday, but it's definitely my favorite season, because I like the changing of the seasons in the fall. I like pumpkin everything. I know some people don't like the pumpkin stuff. I like pumpkin everything. I want pumpkin donuts. I want pumpkin coffee, pumpkin pie, pumpkin cake. I had a pumpkin blizzard. That was great. Pumpkin shake. I had that too. Man, I'm just all over it. It'd be cool if it was year-round, but I get it. It kind of makes you miss it and then want it back when it's gone. So I'm all for it. Bring me more pumpkin stuff, please. So, yeah, like I said, it's kind of my favorite holiday season for the most part. I don't like that I'm already seeing Christmas tree crap up already. Like, can you just wait at least till November 1st? Start putting this stuff up. But nonetheless, that's just what it is. Halloween is always kind of like the hey, it's Halloween, but don't forget Christmas is coming. It's like that kind of thing for whatever reason, man. But definitely a big fan of the holiday, watching movies, and yeah, I got a little one now, so taking her out trick-or-treating, figure out what she's going to wear. I already figured out what I'm going to be. I'm going to dress up as 1986 Mike D of the Beastie Boys. I was thinking about a costume, and I'm looking around, and I actually have a Volkswagen chain that I took off of a car some years ago. I took the Volkswagen emblem off, put it on a chain back in like 87, and I had it, and I went through it something the other day, and I found it, and I was like, I want to use this. Let me just incorporate it into like a costume. Let me find the hat, the glasses, the Fila shirt. So I got all that figured out. Just got to get a can of Budweiser, I guess, and I'll post a picture or something when I do it. Yeah, every year I try to dress up a little bit. I'm not like on the cosplay level, but I try to, put something together, walk around while she's going to houses and such, and I'll just stand there as the dad, and people will be like, "You even dressed up as something?" Yeah, this is a dress up. This is a costume. So salute to everybody out there who's going to be dressing up, and not only just taking their kids out, but dressing up for themselves and still having some fun with it, even if you are of a certain age. So generally what we do here is I play a flashback from the last episode. My last episode had my man from New Jersey, Confucius, repping the Bar Gods. Definitely go back and check that episode if you've not had a chance to yet. But I'm going to do something different here. Instead of playing a flashback from him, I want to dig in the crates a little bit and play something Halloween related, because this is a Halloween episode. So I want to go back to the early days of me doing this podcast when I had Tommy McLaughlin on. He's the director of Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. Arguably my favorite Jason movie. I know it's not the best movie, probably, but I think it's my favorite. At least it's in my top 2 or 3. So here's a little clip from when I talked to him going way back 6 years ago on the Infinite Banter podcast. Tommy McLaughlin here, flashback on the Halloween episode of the Infinite Banter podcast. Flashback. And you're bringing up the classic horror, and I like the beginning of this too, because it has a real Frankenstein feel.
I make no bones about saying that, but that was the influence. That there was, the job was bring Jason back, figure it out, and I thought, well, I can't do better than Frankenstein, but now I just have to figure out how the hell do you get a lightning bolt into a guy in a coffin. So then The rest was just invention, having Tommy freak out and grabbing, of all things, a pole, off the fence, and, just so the series of things that, kind of became the lightning rod to bring him back.
Definitely go back and check out that full episode if you get a chance. It's episode 22, so it's going way back. We're talking like 200 episodes ago when I did that interview with Tommy McLaughlin. And since I'm talking to a director, Warren Skeels, of the movie The Man in the White Van, it made sense to bring back another director, Tommy McLaughlin, there to talk about Jason Lives. He also directed a movie called One Dark Night that I really like as well. You should check that out. If you're looking for a horror movie to watch, go check out One Dark Night. That movie is really cool, and he directed that one as well. So shout out to Tommy McLaughlin. But if you want to hear that episode in full, episode 22 from a long time ago, because this is like 221 or 22 that I'm doing right here. So long time ago, a lot has changed since then, man. But so besides talking to Warren Skeels about his movie, The Man in the White Van, as well as the Infinite Torture segment where I talk about the movie The Burning, I got a couple quick movie nuggets I want to throw in at the end of the episode here. I'll reveal one of them now because I talk about it with Warren Skeels, so there's a spoiler alert already. I mentioned that I've been wanting to watch John Carpenter's The Fog for a long time, and I had the DVD sitting on my desk, and it took me a couple weeks to finally get time to watch it. So I did watch it. I'll give my thoughts on it later on. Just a real quick, not like really a review, it's just my thoughts on the movie and where it stands in the John Carpenter rankings and such. And one more that I just watched before I started recording. I kind of stumbled upon it. You know how I do. I go on Tubi and I stay there for a minute looking for something, and something just jumps out at me, literally with horror. It jumps up and grabs me, and I press play on that thing. And it helps when it's like 90 minutes and it's old, because I like old stuff. So I'll mention what that movie is. All this after the interview and the Infinite Torture segment here on the Halloween edition of the Infinite Banter podcast. Stay tuned for all that. But this show and all the episodes that you can hear are on all platforms. You can rate and review them on Apple Podcasts and Good Pods, places like that. You can follow the show on social media at Infinite Banter Podcast. There is a YouTube channel where I have clips, and some of the episodes are on there, as well as my Things and Stuff videos where I review collectibles and things like that. I have a review of a Jason standee as well as a Freddy standee. So go check those out if you get a chance. Just type in Infinite Banter Podcast on your YouTube search. And then check out the sponsor as well, super7.com/Infinite Banter Podcast. You guys know about Super 7. They make these cool figures. They're kind of throwbacks to those old school like G.I. Joe, Hasbro figures. And I've got a lot of them, like hip-hop related ones, as well as some from movies. I've got a couple Rocky ones, as well as Bruce Lee, Apollo Creed, things like that. So definitely go check out super7.com/Infinite Banter Podcast. Go on Spotify, check out the playlist and the poll questions, all of those things. Really appreciate everybody who checks into the show and lets other people know as well. So definitely thanks for checking out this episode and all the episodes before that. But let's get into it. The Halloween episode of the Infinite Banter Podcast. Warren Skeels is here. We got Infinite Torture coming up. But before you do anything, you go over to Queens and talk to the one and only Daryl McDaniels, DMC. He gets on, he says this, and now it's official.
Yo, what's up? This is me, DMC, the K-I-N-G, the greatest MC in history. And right now, you're listening to Infinite Banter, because we will banter on forever, because this is the only place for all of y'all to ever be. I be Infinite Banter.
You're tuned into the Infinite Banter Podcast. I'm Mark Jolliffe, and I'm really excited to bring on the show a guest that directed one of my favorite horror films of the last few years, The Man in the White Van. He's also directed projects like Siesta Key and Thespians. Welcome to the show, screenwriter and director Warren Skeels. What's going on, Warren?
Hey, thanks, Mark. So nice to catch up with you on a Friday afternoon.
Yeah, man. So close to Halloween, too. It's perfect.
I was about to say, the film was originally going to launch in October to kind of celebrate during the Halloween season, since a good portion of it takes place, in and around Halloween night, which I was really excited about initially. And then, one thing led to another with the P&A funding, and not get to the weeds, but there was another film that they had money in, and they didn't want to compete against our film. And so compete their own money against themselves. So they had asked for us to move to a different date. And so we ultimately ended up on December 13th, which is a Friday Friday the 13th. So
Oh,
that was
so
equally
yeah, it
exciting.
still works, right? It's just a
Yeah, absolutely,
colder
yeah.
Halloween. It's just like with
I know.
a little bit of snow, possibly depending on where you're living. I'm in Chicago, so we definitely had snow, or definitely cold at that time, December 13th. But
Oh yeah, burr.
you're in Florida, right?
I am. Yeah, based in Florida.
Yeah, so you don't know what that's like. You have no idea. You probably do if you obviously travel.
I'm based in Florida now, but I did live in New York for a couple of years. So
Oh, you know.
I've been through a winter and been through snow and have lived to tell the tale.
There you go. I mean, not to go off track, but I know the original Halloween by John Carpenter, that was filmed in, it was supposed to be, the setting was Illinois, but it was filmed a lot of it in California, and so they had to like have leaves kind of falling, someone's like dropping leaves and make it look like leaves are falling and kind of create that fall element. So I'm sure you're fully aware of, you're not necessarily from a place, but you know how it's supposed to look on screen or in a movie or something.
It's funny you mention that because, well, one, yes, you're 100% right. They filmed in South Pasadena, and the editor on The Man in the White Van, Billy Gaggins, set up shop out that way. And while we were in post on this movie, he asked, he was like, "Hey, have you ever seen the Halloween house?" And I was like, "No, let's go." So
that's awesome.
We took like an editorial break and took a long stroll and went down, and like it was the first time I'd been in. I mean, I'd lived in LA for years, but I'd never spent much time up in South Pass. So we went over and we saw like where the hardware store break-in was, and then he showed me the house that got moved, I guess, from where it originally was, and it's like right up against some train tracks now, and it's the structure is now like a real estate office, I think. But still, all the same, I think they actually do like a little nod to it during Halloween each year, which is kind of cool.
So it still looks the same from the outside? Does it have any resemblance to the old 70s movie?
I mean, if you look at it, the structure, you can tell that that's the house. But of course, it has it's painted differently, and it has like a real estate sign on it now or something like that.
Right.
Right. And what I was gonna say was like that comparison, that the trying to create a sense of fall with the leaves and that sort of thing. I remember when we were filming, it was early October in Louisiana, but the leaves were about to turn. They were like in the process of turning, but they hadn't really fallen on this one particular road that the two actresses, or Madison and Sky Jackson, were walking down, Patty and Annie, for one of the scenes where the van kind of comes up behind them. And I remember we were out there, we were coming back from lunch, and we were kind of setting up the scene, and I was like, "Guys, we need a boatload of leaves on this road." And so they were like off gathering all these kind of all these leaves in the art department, and
that's awesome.
And then we were all working as a team to like put as many leaves on the road as we could, because we really wanted like the leaves to sort of like catch up into the air as the van drove by, kind of a vibe.
There's no Leaves Are Us that you could just call and they just like bring a truckload of leaves, right? You have to kind of make way right on your own and try to find leaves and create it.
I'm sure. I mean, if you're in the heart of LA or the heart of Atlanta or New York and you're in the epicenter of filming, I'm sure there is something for anything like that. But when you're in the middle of Shreveport, Louisiana, or not even in Shreveport, but like the suburbs of Shreveport, Louisiana, you're left to your own devices for sure.
I could bet, man. Another thing I noticed too about the movie, I rewatched it yesterday before talking to you here. I saw it earlier in the year, and I saw it again yesterday. The palettes of it, a lot of yellows. Maybe that's just me. Her bedroom, the main character, Annie. It seems like there's a lot of yellows in there. Was that just me trying to read into it and see something, or was that on purpose, trying to kind of have some lighter tones throughout the movie?
Yeah, I mean, I really wanted to play into the Halloween of it all, really, and carry that through in the production design, the art direction, and Lauren Spalding and Kurt, it was our art director, production designer. They just did a fabulous job, really, in characterizing each of the sisters' bedrooms, based on their personality type and their disposition, and then from a general art direction standpoint, really just wanted to carry over that fall vibe and feel, and also marry a little bit of the 70s vibe and tone, since that's obviously when the story was taking place.
Yeah, and I was born in 75, so this is right up my alley as far as like the feel of it. I mean, I was too young to remember what the 70s were actually like, but when I looked at it, and when you see just small things like a phone that's plugged into a wall, or a record player. Obviously, people have record players now, but it's not the same as back then. And the clothing and the hairstyles.
We had so much fun with just some of those kind of carryover past technology. Like the vehicles is one thing. When Breck kind of got behind the car for the first time, she was just like, "What is this?
Right.
I don't know." And I wish to God that we had like, we were making TikTok videos on set because we just had a field day in social media around it. But everything from the how to drive the vehicle to the lock on the locker at school. And then of course, when when Sky had to work the traditional rotophone, she just stared at it and had no idea. And I just said,
Right.
do you have any idea how to make a call with this? She's like, no, like I don't understand. There's no button. Like, how does this work?
You know what? That's crazy just to think about that. Like, these are young actors who have.
Yeah.
I mean, for us, that was something we grew up with. But how long has it been since a rotary phone has actually been a thing? It's got to be at least 40 years ago, right? So they've never seen
the
it.
90s, right? Like
Yeah.
the 90s was sort of like the big digital revolution, and we got all the house phone, but the house phone with the antenna that was, that we carried around as a mobile. Well, it was mobile, but it wasn't like our mobile phones now, but it certainly was part of the digital revolution of the 90s and the 2000s. So yeah, the rotophone was big in the 80s.
Right.
Although you still started having the push dial in the 80s. So, I mean, for these kids, they were, it was a blast just watching them sort of experience it firsthand, but they were having fun because I think it was also just another way of allowing them to sort of gel with the given circumstances and immerse themselves into a world that they didn't know. And it was sort of a nice way for them to, like, once they started tapping into these different technologies that they had to utilize on set, it sort of gave them something to focus on, which I think for the actor or actress, it was, allowed them to just kind of immerse themselves further into the character, into that world.
Yeah, I'm sure they're thinking like, you guys use these? Like, it takes like 30 seconds for me to call, or now you just, say a name or you just press one button or something and you're already calling and talking to the person. So yeah, it's definitely different. And the thing I like about it is you've probably seen this too, a lot of movies and TV shows, when they try to recreate an era, it seems like they just cram a bunch of old songs that I've heard of from that era. And it doesn't really create the era like I expect it to, where I feel like you did a great job of, there are songs from that era in there. They're not like over the top hits. I mean, Partridge Family, I don't think I've heard that song in decades. Or, just like the look of it. And like you said, with the phone and the technology and saying things like Kung Fu and TV dinners, like little things like that. They're not over the top, but there's like enough for me to say, oh yeah, this is that era, man.
Yeah. So, Sharon Cobb, my co-writer on it, and I really just wanted to, find a way to tap into the time period in a subtle manner, but also kind of, pay tribute to what was happening in 1975 and 1974, during the time period. And so that was a lot of fun, just kind of trying to find slang that worked in the dialogue without it seeming like we were, forcing it into the dialogue. I think, like Patty, I think at one point in time says that it gave her the skeebies, right? Which is sort of an expression of the time
I
period.
remember that, yeah.
But it plays well because it's something that she legitimately would say, and we didn't want to force a lot in there where it just seemed like, okay, guys, you're really kind of pushing this and making it really obvious that you're trying to do this. So I think just finding subtle ways to kind of layer that in was key. And then, from the music standpoint, originally I think we kind of wrote in a different song that was much more popular and used a lot more. But it made sense for the time period and everything. And then when Barry Coughing came on board, our music supervisor, he was like, okay, you could use that song, Happy Together, but it's been used forever for everything else. He's like, can I pitch another song to you? And I was like, sure. He's like, well, I got a connection, blah, 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 and I can probably get the rights. It probably won't cost us an arm and a leg, but, what about I Think I Love You? And I honestly had never heard the song before in my life. And I remember I was driving, he sent it to me, and I was driving from one location to the other scouting. It was like a week before we started production. Oh, because that was the other thing, is that we needed to know what song we were going to play so she could react to it in the film. And so we had like a timetable of making a decision on that and knowing that we could have the rights and we could just put that to bed.
Right.
So I listened to it, and as I was driving, at first I was like, what is this song? Like, what is this intro? Because it has that big like, bah, 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 that it like leads in with. It's this bizarre intro. And then when he starts singing the verse, I was like, wait a second, this is creepy.
Exactly.
As all Get Out. It's perfect. And I really loved it because it wasn't a song that was ever utilized like this. And I just thought, oh man, we're gonna make such a meal out of this song. It's gonna play so well, and no one is ever going to think of this song in the same way again. Once they see the film. I got to credit Barry Coughing for finding that particular track, and it was perfect. And so I immediately jumped on board, and we figured it out, and we're able to actually utilize it on set when we were filming. So Madison could respond to it and react to it. And I remember actually playing it for Madison, and she just kind of looked back at me and was like, "Oh, that's going to be sick," So that was.
So she got it right away too. She could tell.
Yeah,
yeah,
she did. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird. For those who don't know, when you hear it, when you watch the movie, you'll definitely hear it a couple times. It starts off with that bump, 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 and then the tone kind of changes, and it's kind of like he's kind of stalking her in a way, the girl he's singing about in the song. So it fits the mood of the movie, and it really works. And it's one of those songs, like in Jeepers Creepers, there's a song they play in that movie. It's a song that'll resonate when you move on from watching it. You're like, hey, every time I hear this Partridge Family song, I'm going to think about the man in the white van. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I guess spoiler alert for anybody listening for the next 30 seconds. When we do the callback, to me, that's the most fun. Is when this, that's a song that it's sort of precious to her. It's how she thinks of the guy she likes at school and everything. And then when we are able to make a callback to it, and the song is like bastardized and used against her, by our villain blasting from the van, and sort of announces himself to her, was particularly creepy but equally fun to deploy in the film.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, sometimes there's songs like from Halloween and Don't Fear the Reaper, like songs that are pretty obvious just in the title. But a song like that, I feel like when you hear it, it really resonates with what the movie is. And going back a bit, talk about your first involvement with this project. Was it something that you always wanted to do? How did you first get involved with doing The Man in the White Van?
It's a great question. And so I've always enjoyed suspense, true crime, thriller, and was in the process of developing I put a project on hold about the serial shooter in Phoenix in 2005, 2006. And I was having a dinner with a financier and producer friend of mine who had worked with on Siesta Key. And, he just asked what I was working on. I told him about the serial killer, project out in Phoenix. And he just looked at me and said, oh, if you want a good serial killer story, you ought to talk to my wife. And sure enough, she had this story of about being followed and stalked and kind of hunted by this character, this man in the white van in Brooksville, Florida, back in 1974 when she was 13, 14 years old. And as we started talking about it, we followed up with several conversations over coffee, and I just was enamored with her story. And I really loved it. And she found out, several years later that from when she was at the University of Tampa, and she looked at a newspaper stand when we used to have newspaper stands.
Right.
And there was on the front cover was an image of this guy that was the man in the white van who had stalked her and chased her on Halloween night, 1974. And he had been arrested for murder in California and for uncovering 4 bodies on his parents' property in Weeki Wachee, Florida, which is a stone's throw from Brooksville. And she was floored by that. And just hearing her tell that whole story, what I really was inspired by was the idea of telling a serial killer story, but from the POV of the surviving victim entirely. So that excited me. And then, I got together with Sharon Cobb to write the screenplay, and we just wanted to stay true to that. And, whatever she knew is what our audience would know when we're in her timeline. And we kind of played around with the timeline,
right,
of showing the, what this man in the white van is also doing, prior to stalking Annie, our protagonist. But in her timeline, in her world, we're deeply rooted with her, and and see the whole see the whole world from her point of view.
Yeah, the flashback sequences are really chilling too, because they really build up the just the scare factor of this guy. The first one with the waitress, I believe it was Deborah Ann Woll who was in that scene. People know her from Daredevil. She's great.
She is awesome, by the way. She is. We both went to USC, although I graduated many years before her, and we both were at the same agency at the time. When we were making the film, but she came on board and was just such a trooper, great to work with. I'd work with her again in 2 seconds, and just super talented. And she's came in and knocked that scene out of the park. So was very happy to have her on board.
Yeah, I mean, for those watching, I mean that opening scene, I mean, she's already having a bad day. She's upset about something, and it's, that's not even the tip of the iceberg for what's about to happen. And all those little scenes, but the other one with the girl at the hotel at the pool, and then of course the one that really got me was, of course, the young girl leaving the house. And then you start to give a little more every time you show these, you kind of reveal a little tiny bit more about the killer. Like he's hanging the necklace from the rear view mirror, and then there's the guy with the cigarettes. It's like there's a lot going on every time that kind of gives you a little bit more, but you still don't really reveal who he is and what his motives are necessarily, right? That's kind of the idea. Keep him more in the background.
Yeah, I mean, that was really sort of the idea was, the story of the film is not really about him, but we wanted to offer enough background that we understand the danger that he poses, and that he's not just a threat, but the magnitude of threat that he really is, and how he's been operating, and even the possibility that he might not just be operating alone. There being sort of other things at play there that we wanted to allude to, because in the real world, that's sort of the case as well.
Right. And, like I said, I grew up, in the 80s basically, and I remember that movie Adam came out, which I believe was from Florida, right? That's where the incident happened. It was a TV movie, and it scared the crap out of me as a kid, and it's made me not want to go outside. It's like that kind of thing. So watching this movie kind of made me think about that era a little bit more, where, abductions were seeming like, I'm not saying they never happened before, but it seemed like they were on a different level in the 70s and 80s, and a lot of unresolved, not solved cases, right? And this movie kind of hints on that. This guy's been operating like this for years and years. Finally, he doesn't get his victim.
They called it the golden age of serial killers in the 70s for a lot of different reasons, but the main one is that they didn't have the technology that we do now. They didn't have like video technology, surveillance technology, the DNA technology and forensics that we have now to identify and track potential killers from victims. They just didn't have the technology back then. And, with advances in forensic DNA and forensic anthropology, they've actually been able, in the last 3 years, were able to identify one of the victims on the Weeki Wachee property who remained unidentified for 45 years. There's still one that hasn't been identified, but Teresa Fillingham is her name. And she went missing in 1980 while she had just moved to Florida from Alaska to be with her sister and kind of get her life on track. She was 16. It was kind of troubled kid, but was going to be going to school and getting a job. And I'd been there I think a week, and it was a week before her 17th birthday, and she just didn't come home one evening. And when her sister went to the Tampa Police Department to file a missing persons report, they'd asked if she'd ever run away before, and she said, yeah, she had run away previously. And they're like, all right, well, we can't really do anything about that now. And so when they were looking for the bodies in 1981, in the spring, when they did their big dig on the Weeki Wachee property, they were looking for Sandra Jean Graham, who was rumored to have been on the property, buried there. And they found 3 other bodies before they located Sandra Jean Graham. So it was kind of a big deal, and quite a surprise to the law enforcement officials in Hernando County and Tampa and Pasco. And when they found Teresa Billingham's body, there was nobody looking for her in law enforcement. There was no, to my understanding, there was no missing persons report. So there was nothing to match her being, the possibility of her being there. And so she went undiscovered until the last 3 years with advancements in forensic DNA, they were able to find a ping of a match, I think from like Ancestry, and they matched it to a woman who ended up being her sister, Margaret Johns, in Cape Coral, Florida. And they called her up and asked her if she had ever had a family member go missing. And she said, yeah. She's like, my sister went missing this, summer of 1980. And they said, well, we'd like to bring you her bones.
Wow. It's just, just hearing you say all that, it's two-sided. Like, it's great that we have this technology now that's able to, resolve a lot of these missing cases. But on the flip side, I wish we had it earlier. It's like if we didn't have it at all, we'd still be, completely in the dark on so much of this. It's just really tremendous that, we're able to have such advancements in this.
It is. I mean, it's remarkable, and they're still trying to identify one of the bodies in the property, and and find other victims, and it's remarkable that the cases are almost 45, 50 years old now, and they're still open as cold cases, and they've cold case detectives still working on cases in Pasco, Hernando, Tampa. All related back to Mansfield.
And it sounds like, this project for you is a lot more personal than just a script that comes along your way and you want to make a movie. I mean, you met with, somebody who dealt with this and the trauma that comes with, in the neighborhood and the area that it's in. It sounds like when you were working on this movie, it was more than just a movie for you.
I mean, I think I related to it because, I grew up as a latchkey kid in the early 80s. And I rode my bike back and forth to school, and it was, it wasn't just, hop out and ride down the block to go to school. It was about a 3-mile ride. And there were times when, I rode with other kids in the neighborhood, and there were times when I rode by myself, and I definitely was followed by cars and decided to take alternate routes home at times. And so I remember, having that sense of fear of the unknown. And I feel like that was something that when I talked with Beth, the story is based around. I feel like that's really what I connected to her on that level, because that's what she experienced for a good while until things turned. For worse.
And it does feel like, like I said, I grew up in the 80s. I have a 6-year-old now. I couldn't even imagine letting her do what I did when I was a kid. Just my parents just let me go outside, and I'd be out for like 8 hours with like zero idea what I'm doing. Other than like the neighbors kind of saying, yeah, he's outside, doing whatever. Or like you said, ride your bike miles away and come back when it got dark. Like, it was kind of like the thing. Like, it was just normal, but it probably wasn't really safe either. We had more freedom, but there was definitely some fear. And now it's like, I think we're kind of passing it on to this generation. Like, you guys can't go anywhere without us being there. It's just
I definitely think there's been like a huge knee-jerk reaction and flipping the pendulum to the completely the different side of things. And certainly,
right.
Mass media doesn't help our fears of horrible things happening to our children. But yeah, I mean, in the 80s, it was, you almost sort of got kicked outside for the day to go play with your friends.
That's right.
You could come inside to like make a bologna sandwich or PB&J.
And then go back out.
You had to go back outside, and you were drinking. We would play sports and go out into the forest behind the neighborhood and play pretend, and if we were thirsty, we just had to find a garden hose to drink out of, and then sometime when it started getting twilight, we'd say our goodbyes and go home, and I remember coming to the house, and my mom would be like, right to the shower, right straight to the shower, and then it's like coming filthy from whatever the day unfolded right behind me, and yeah, I mean, it was cruising around our BMXs like some 80s movie, and having a blast. But nowadays, we live in that generation of kids is turning to a generation of helicopter parents, who are terrified, that something's going to happen to their children at every turn, whether it's, driving a vehicle for the first time or, going on a date, or, simply just walking around their neighborhood. We're all sort of like on alert, wide alert. So.
Helicopter parents. I'm going to write that down. I've never used that. I've never heard that before. I'm going to probably start using that. Definitely part of that. I think the turning point was, this is definitely off subject a little bit, but I think when I stopped going outside all the time was when Nintendo happened. It's like, once you had something to keep me in, because the video games are better outside. You go to the arcade or whatever. I had an Atari, but it was not as good as the arcade. But Nintendo kind of said, "No, you can stay in the house now because we're better than the arcade." The arcades eventually went away for the most part. And I think that's when I realized that people were staying inside more because there was entertainment in the house. And then, of course, we're all eating Hot Pockets and getting fat or whatever. And
oh, my God, Hot Pockets. Well, I will have to say that I one Christmas I got ColecoVision, and man, oh, man.
That's great. Oh, I love ColecoVision.
I was stoked to have ColecoVision. And my dad was excited about the baseball game because he loves baseball. And the baseball game itself came with a separate controller, I remember, that had, it was like a handle, and then you had all these different devices on it. It was
right.
But it was like its own controller for just one game,
Yeah, it was. I remember that. I don't know if Frogger was big on that ColecoVision or not, or Popeye, stuff like that. Cubert, yeah.
Cubert, Centipede.
Oh God, Centipede. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, Galaxy or.
Yeah, because you need that round joystick or whatever that it's almost like you turn it. Yeah, because you couldn't just use your traditional Atari 2600 joystick. You needed the circular motion to do those kind of games, like you said, Centipede and stuff like that. Man,
although I was a pretty big Pitfall fan, but then once Nintendo came along and Super Mario Brothers, that was the game changer.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious because kids now, when they're playing their games, they're like, "What is this 2D animation? this is the most boring thing ever." And you're like, "What?"
Right. But for us, Atari was like the rotary phone, and Nintendo was like a cell phone. It was such a big jump to that.
It was.
Where like now, you show Nintendo to some kid now, like, I know what Mario Brothers is, but this is awful.
Right.
What is this?
Yeah, no, it is.
But want to get back to the movie. So I really got to commend on the cast. I mean, getting Ellie Larder and Sean Astin in there. Talk about casting this film and having those two in there, because those are obviously two big names. As soon as I saw they're in it, I remember I was thinking like, oh wow, this is gonna be something else. You got a couple big names here and there, and some actors I'm not that familiar with, but Madison Wolfe I thought stole the show. I mean, she was great.
Yes, Madison. So the first person we cast actually was Madison. We really wanted to. We wanted somebody who could really envelop the role of Annie and kind of anchor the film. And I met with Madison and we talked about the script and we talked about the character and I immediately thought she would be fantastic for the role. So she came on board, and then we cast Breck Bassinger as her sister. In the Kim test, they really showed themselves well. And it's the casting. It was a lot of fun. Arlie Day and Mike Page, casting were tremendous to work with and really championed the film. And then when it came around to the parents, Allie and Sean both came on board as executive producers. They wanted to make sure the movie got made, and and then they lent their talents to it from an acting standpoint. And just having them on set and having their presence in the film, I think just really went a long way towards kind of substantiating it for the other actors in the film as well.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, they definitely hold a presence in it, and Allie had the curls, the 70s curls with the hair there, kind of reminiscent of what's the girl from Charlie's Angel? I'm forgetting the actress's name. But then the daughter, so there's the two daughters. There's one that's kind of more like the mom. She's more like, about how she looks and, boys and stuff. And Madison's playing Annie, who's kind of, I wouldn't call her a tomboy, but she's almost like an outcast in a way within the family. And then, of course, outside, she's kind
you
of.
You call her a tomboy. I mean, she's, she's not messing up with the boys, so to speak, but she is definitely doing, she's out there getting dirty, wrestling with her horse, and is willing to do more kind of grunt labor sort of things that she doesn't mind at all, versus her sister, who is much more doily, if you will, and a rising debutante in the social circle, and certainly a little more girly, and wanting to sort of fit into society in that way.
Right, and I got to bring up the horses. I mean, Rebel, the main horse that she rides, I don't want to spoil too much. People have never seen the movie, but he definitely gets a shot in on the bad guy here. Oh my God. I love it.
We actually had 3 different horses play Rebel. There was like the main Rebel horse that Madison rode throughout, and then we have like our kicking Rebel horse, and then we had our like jumping Rebel horse. But they all kind of made the composite of Rebel as a character in the film, and they're all they're animals, so you never know what you're gonna get on the day of filming. But these we were really fortunate that they they all delivered in a meaningful way. So we were really happy about that.
Right. And then the Patty character has a horse as well. So that would be 4 horses at least, right? That you guys have had work with. Yeah. So that's awesome.
Yeah. And it was really kind of tantamount to Annie's storyline that she, like knew horses, right? So Madison had experience previously in riding horses, but it had been a couple of years. So we just made sure that she had plenty of opportunities to get on the horse, to actually get on this particular horse prior to filming. So we kind of held the horseback scenes, I think about 2 weeks off in filming, so that she had plenty of time to bond with the horse and, get out there and go on, 2 or 3 rides. And really, kind of acclimate themselves together, because it's not just her acclimating to the horse, it's the horse acclimating to her, and it's a relationship there. We want to make sure that they came across like they were pals, that they knew each other.
Right. And I've never ridden a horse, so I'd be scared to death if you asked me to do that. I wouldn't even know what to do.
Oh, they're such beautiful, powerful creatures. I got the chance on we filmed the Orange Grove scene. That was our last night of filming in Shreveport, and I got up on the Rebel stunt horse for a moment, just kind of walked around with him, and it's just when you get on him, there's nothing like it. It feels so primal in a way,
Yeah, you kind of feel like you're back in the era before we had cars, right, and things like that. Sure. Yeah, there's something about it, and I really like the way the movie is sequenced. So you show the flashbacks, and when you get to 1975, which is in the current time, things really ramp up because you've seen everything this guy has done, and now the threat is there. We know what he's capable of doing, and we've all grown with this character throughout the first hour of the movie. We definitely don't want her to become one of them. So I wanted to just kind of talk about just the build up to that and getting to that final after the party scene, and when her and Patty, they're kind of being chased by the car, or the van, I should say. Just talk about that final climax. Like, you're building to this for the whole time.
Well, so structurally in the writing, and then certainly more so in the directing, I really wanted it to serve as a slow burn suspense, like you are, imagine you're on a roller coaster, and each time there's a flashback, you're on the slow creep up to the top, right? And then as soon as we hit the climax, then it's just like it's a deep dive, right? And it's just a race to the finish. And each of the flashbacks to the darker crimes that sort of add the true threat level sort of increases at each flashback. I sort of thought of that as sort of like kind of pulling back on some kind of tension each time, so that like a bow and arrow, like pulling back just a little bit, and then pulling back a little bit more, and then pulling back a little more, until that final pull back, and then just letting it go. They were all, like I said, off to the races.
Yeah, literally, because they're on horses, and he's in a van. So there's
literally racing. Yeah, exactly.
And
now, we married 2 different victim storylines together to create Annie's narrative, and the idea of the escape was a lot of fun to direct and play with, while at the same time recognizing that you're dealing with real life and mixing in some elements for entertainment value. And so just trying to find that natural blend, and kind of find the sweet spots of entertainment, but not overdoing it. Sort of also kind of a fun challenge.
Right. And as I'd mentioned you before, I'm a big horror film fan, especially slasher films, and it definitely had like a little bit of that Michael Myers vibe, because you keep thinking he's down for the count, and of course he gets up, and don't go next to him, he's going to grab you or something like that, and he keeps coming back, he keeps coming, and eventually he's gone. Like he doesn't even get caught. Was the idea, is it because he wasn't caught for years, right? So you can't really end it with a happy ending like that, right?
Right. I mean, and he just kind of left her world, and she never heard from him again for 5 years, until she saw the headline in the newspaper that he'd been arrested and he was a serial killer. So he really did disappear in her world, and didn't reappear until 5 years later on the newspaper headlines. So in the film, it was really trying to find an out where there wasn't an arrest, because an arrest wasn't made then.
Right. And for those watching, don't turn it off just because you think the credits are starting. There's more in there, and you kind of leave it to where he's still doing this. He's just doing it somewhere else now. He's victimizing other people. He hasn't necessarily stopped, and is that the same van he buys at the used car lot or whatever, after it's been like repoed or whatever. I'm not sure, just another white van that he happened to like, but he's back at it.
Yeah, I think the idea was that we're sort of toying with the idea that he just bought another white van off of the used car lot, not actually the exact same white van.
Right.
But and yeah, I mean the lore is that he left Florida, and when he was actually arrested for murder, it was in California for the death of Renee Saling. So he did indeed leave Florida and go elsewhere and continue his murderous ways.
Oh man!
So he wanted to give at least a nod to that.
Right. Yeah. It's just frightening to think about that. He kept going, and as you said, he got as far as California, and who knows what was in between with that. So yeah, I just love it. It's not your typical horror movie, right? But I really like character building, and I feel like that's what you did a great job with here. It's like I'm really invested in Annie and her family and the friends at school, and just trying to see what's this guy's motive, if there even is one. And it's just, I really dug it, man. I like I said, I grew up on Jason and Freddy movies and stuff like that, but this is on another level because I was more about, not that those movies don't have great character building, because they do. I mean, that's why you're watching it. But this one really kind of made you feel like, took you to a place where you're like, okay, I remember when times are like this, and these unsolved cases like this. It just reminds you of all of that, and it's just, you're just rooting for it the whole time. And thank God when you're watching the movie, like she gets through it, man. It was quite a fight at the end. I loved it though.
Thanks, Mark. That means a lot. I really wanted to sort of seep the audience into that time period, almost like immerse them in a dripping in the cinematography and the production design and the wardrobe. I mean, Tiger Curran, who did the wardrobe, I thought was so fitting, and had there's just some great choices. She has such an amazing eye. And then, as far as the characters go, being able to take the audience into that world and having them deeply rooted in Annie's coming of age storyline, really, I mean, because that's really kind of what Beth's experience was. She was a girl transitioning through puberty and into womanhood, and having thoughts and feelings about things that she had never experienced before. And while she was, on the precipice of becoming a young lady, this horrible things happened to her. This man in the white van started kind of appearing in and around her world, and its presence was something that she didn't want to accept, and didn't want to give it any attention, and she didn't want to talk about it either, because to her it was just it's negative attention, right?
Exactly.
And so, eventually she was forced to deal with it, in an almost tragic way.
Right. And talk about the title, too, because I think the title's really catchy. I mean, just the name alone, The Man in the White Van, it's just, I want to know what that's about.
So, that was actually one of the first things that I kind of hooked into when I was talking with Beth, is that, she and her friends just sort of, they, at the time, really just sort of called him the Man in the White Van, because he was just this dude that was driving around a white van, and just kind of showing up places and at parks and outside of school, or on their ride home, or after a football game, and they just thought he was a weirdo, and a kind of a creepy dude, and
right.
But harmless. Nobody thought he was dangerous. They just thought he was just some kind of creeper. But lo and behold, they had no idea just how much of a threat and how dangerous this guy really was.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I just wanted to get, just your idea and like some of the reactions you've gotten from fans, and, obviously there's critic reviews and such, but how was, the feedback you've gotten from the time it was released, even now, where someone like me is bugging you to talk about a movie that came out, a year or so ago?
Yeah, it's funny. We've gotten, I've gotten so much positive feedback on the film. But at the same time, I think you have to sort of have the right expectations to watch the film. I think that some of the marketing kind of led into more horror slasher, and it's, I think those who go in expecting a gore fest because it's a serial killer are going to be would be disappointed. But I think if you go in with the right mindset, that it's a slow burn suspense that's going to ratchet up into a thrilling climax, and it's about theater of the mind, and really about the suspense, that I think that you are going to be very happy with what's going to unfold on your screen.
Oh, without a doubt. I feel like horror films for the most part have focused too much on the gore stuff and gotten away from the suspense stuff. And I feel like the suspense is what makes the payoff great in a horror film. And you definitely delivered on that, with the suspense and the thrill of it, as opposed to like, here's just a bunch of, blood and guts, which I honestly, it's not really something that really gets me all the time. I kind of don't want to watch those all the time. I want something that's got to make me think and put myself in the position of the character. And, that's what takes me back to those old Hitchcock movies I used to, love watching all the time. It's a suspense and the danger around the corner thing, as opposed to like, oh, here's a bunch of craziness like Terrifier, which is just hard for me to watch because I can't go to sleep after watching it, stuff like that. So
yeah, it's I think the Terrifier, or I will say, I'll give a little plug. A friend of mine made a film that is was just premiered at Fantastic Fest called Dolly, filmmaker Rod Blackhurst, and I got a kind of sneak peek of the film kind of last spring or so, and that's something to look out for. It's a awesome slasher, French Extremity, 70s throwback, certainly plays to the kind of the John Carpenter of it all. And he did a great job with the film. It's I think that's something that everybody's kind of keep an eye on for. Dolly.
All right, everybody listening, make sure you look out for that. And anything else you want to promote? Is anything you're working on now, or something we should be looking out? Other things you've done besides The Man in the White Van that people should definitely go watch?
The things I'm working on now, I'm not at liberty to really get into, but there are fun things in the work, and anybody can follow me on Instagram if they want to, just Warren Skeels on Instagram. And I don't know, it's just kind of really looking forward to the rest of 2025 and 2026. There's a lot kind of on the docket to jump into, so I'm excited about that.
And I know, I don't know if you left it up this way. Is it possible there'd be a sequel to The Man in the White Van? I mean, it was kind of left like, obviously he's not done, but it didn't necessarily say, oh, there's going to be more. Was it left kind of ambiguous like that, where it might be another movie, or he just kind of keeps going? Kind of thing.
There could be. You never know. Know.
There you go. Okay. All right. I got that much out of you. All right. That's awesome.
I think, the film is available now, I think, on Amazon and Apple.
Right.
And I think it'll be streaming sometime in 2026.
Awesome. Yeah, I saw it on Amazon Prime. I did see Apple has it as well. I haven't seen any DVDs for it, but I definitely would love to own it and have it. I'm old like that. I like physical media, so if I see a DVD of it, I'll definitely grab it.
Awesome. Yeah, I would love. Well, the only DVDs that I know about were it was distributed in Australia and the UK, and I think they did a Blu-ray in the UK for it.
Okay, so here we go. Hopefully, down the line, we'll get copies of that eventually.
Yes. Yeah, that would be cool.
That's great.
I know. I want to get my own Blu-ray.
There you go. You're right. I mean, like I said, I collect records and comic books and stuff. I'm used to having things in my hand that I can look at, and I love the cover too. With her looking behind her shoulder, and you see it. It's just there's something about that's kind of lost with streaming, because you just kind of just go right into it, and I just like seeing the posters and the trailers and everything, just kind of feeling what you're about to walk into and get that visual still shot or whatever it is when you look at a DVD cover or something like that. But man, this movie is phenomenal, man. I really appreciate you coming on and talking about The Man in the White Van. Everybody out there, make sure you go check it out. Amazon Prime, Apple TV, places like that. Man, Warren, I appreciate you so much for coming on here. Anything else any lasting thoughts you want to give about The Man in the White Van?
It's a compelling, true crime, inspirational story of survival. And yeah, you can check it out on Amazon, or you can check me out on Instagram. I love to give a little behind the scenes and filmmaking tips, things like that. So feel free to follow.
There you go.
Warren. Thanks so much for having me on, Mark.
Oh man, it was an honor. I'm doing a Halloween. I do once a year, like a Halloween episode, and this year's thing, like, man, what's a movie that I feel like needs to get. I'm banging on my desk here, if you can hear it. I want people to know about it. So I was like, you know what? I really like The Man in the White Van. Let me see if Warren is interested in talking about it for 30, 45 minutes. And, it was just a blast having you on here, man. And I hope enough people have heard this. They'll go out there and seek it out and realize it's really, really a great suspenseful thriller type movie. And I love it.
And I love Halloween. So happy Halloween to you.
Yeah, man. Do you have a favorite Halloween movie? Is there one you watch or are you even somebody who does that? Do you watch Halloween movies around this time?
I am somebody that does like I'll try to watch a horror movie every night in October. But yeah, I mean, some of my go-tos are, obviously, Halloween. I always end up jumping into the the Alien series.
Oh, okay.
Even though it's not very strictly Halloween, it's still horror. Yeah, the Halloween series too. And even though Season of the Witch
I love it.
It's not a Michael Myers film. It's still a great Halloween movie all by itself. So that's my little plug for Season of the Witch.
Yeah, Season of the Witch is. I think if you just, like you just said, if you just realize that it's not a Michael Myers movie and you understand that going into it, you just watch it on its own. It's a great movie. And that little jingle that plays, the Shamrock or whatever, the mask.
Shamrock, yeah.
That's great. And, speaking of that, I just watched yesterday for the first time. You brought up John Carpenter and Tom Atkins, who's in Season of the Witch. I just watched The Fog for the first time yesterday.
Oh, really?
I've never seen it. And I was like, I got to put this on the docket of things to watch. And it's like, man, this is awesome. So I love zombies and stuff. So.
Yeah, The Fog's a great movie too. Yeah. I really enjoyed that.
Right. And it's not overly gory or anything. It's just like the idea of something's coming and, where are they going to hide and how do they get past it? It's just really great. So I love this time of year, man. And you go watch these movies in April if you want to. It doesn't have to just be October, but everybody listening.
That's right.
Yeah. Go check out The Man in the White Van. Warren Skeels, the director of it, screenwriter of it, everything. Man, I appreciate you coming on here and talking about the movie with me. I really, really dug the movie a lot. So it was really cool to hear your stories and some of the behind the scenes, look at it.
Well, thanks, Mark. And let's do it again.
You got it, man. Thanks so much, Warren.
All right. Take care. Have a good one.
You too, Warren. Thanks so much, dude.
Okay. You got it.
Big thanks to Warren Skeels for coming on the show. Was really, really cool talking to him and hearing how much the true events of what happened inspired and was influenced to make this movie. And I really, advocate for everybody out there. You get a chance, go check out The Man in the White Van. It's on Amazon Prime, it's on Apple TV, places like that. As I was mentioning to Warren, hopefully it eventually gets on a DVD or a Blu-ray. But yeah, everybody out there, if you're looking for something to watch, as I mentioned before, go check out One Dark Night from Ty McLaughlin. You definitely want to check out The Man in the White Van. I think it's only like $2.99 on Amazon Prime. I mean, that's a great deal. Go get it. Go check it out. Tell me what you think of it. But there's a couple of things he talked about in the interview that I want to clean up a little bit. I couldn't think of the actress's name from Charlie's Angels. I don't know why I went completely blanked on it. Farrah Fawcett, who I was thinking of, because Ali Larter's hair in the movie, she's got those like kind of curls on the side and in the front, and it looked kind of like Farrah Fawcett. They kind of reminded me of that look. I think everybody knows that poster with the red bikini that she's wearing. I remember it's even on a Deltron 3030 album cover for one of their singles. So Farrah Fawcett's the name I couldn't think of. And then the song, I didn't really bring it up with Warren, but I'll bring it up here. So the Partridge Family song, I Think I Love You, my hip-hop heads out there should know who sampled that. The first time I heard that song was as a sample for Nice and Smooth hip-hop junkies, because they sampled that bump, 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 bump part. And I remember years after that song came out like, 1991, something like that. I inherited like a bag of 45s. There were like 10 45s in this like little bag thing. And one of them was the Partridge Family, that song. And I remember playing it and I was like, whoa, this is Nice and Smooth. I had no idea they sampled this. So it took on new meaning for me when I hear that song in the movie, because I'm thinking of Nice and Smooth. I'm thinking of the hip-hop version of that song. And now that song has taken on two lives for me. Because not only does it remind me of Nice and Smooth, now it reminds me of a crazy person in a white van chasing down young girls. So thank you, Partridge Family. You've given me lots of different renditions of your song to think about besides the one you guys made. I don't think about it just like a song to listen to and sing along with. It makes you think about killers and hip-hop. So there you go. I don't know if that's what they wanted, but that's what it is for me. Last but not least, wanted to bring up the Nintendo aspect. I know a lot of people out there that are similar to my age. Yeah, we were outside a lot, but the one thing that kept us inside was Nintendo. Once I had Mike Tyson's Punch-Out! And Super Mario Brothers, I was in the house. Like, I was done going outside, at least to the degree that I was going out before, because you could play it at home. I mean, I didn't have to go to the arcade. I didn't have to go to Hank's Video to put quarters in a machine to play it anymore. I could stay at home and eat a bologna sandwich, and it was great. So, Nintendo, thank you for the entertainment, but in reverse, you kept us all in the house. Maybe less of us are getting abducted because of Nintendo, so salute to you for that. But we're also less fit and are in worse health. And have social issues. But hey, man, it's okay. You got to play Gyromite. So it can't be that bad. All right, let's go ahead and wrap up the Halloween edition of the Infinite Banter podcast. Thanks again to Warren Skeels. Go check out The Man in the White Van.
Hey there, this is Ira Hayden, the Wizard Master from Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, and you are listening to the Infinite Banter podcast. And remember, whatever you do, don't fall asleep.
May I have your attention, please?
Infinite
Torture. You would think I didn't watch the movie. I remember the movie.
No, of course you did. Of course.
You know what I mean?
So you can have
can't call something bad without actually paying attention to it.
I do that pretty much all the time, so I disagree.
You're a terrible person.
Yeah, it was fucking ridiculous.
There you go.
But,
That's the way you sum it up.
Yeah, complete garbage.
Cool, Kim. You're making me feel like the Grinch because I had all this hate in my heart for Vanilla Ice all these years. 30-something years, and now
I'm just warming you up to him, like, yo, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, well, maybe wasn't that. Let me go listen to Ice. Let me go watch the movie. So, what was it, the Vanilla Ice? What's that Vanilla Ice movie at?
Cool as Ice or something.
You know what it's called, because you went and seen it. You seen it. You went and seen it. You know what it's called. You know what it's called.
I'm going to delete this. This whole thing's going to delete it.
Not only do you know what it's called, you was there opening day, all right?
Cut it out. Yeah, instead of the Star Wars poster, I really have Cool as Ice.
Yeah, with the motorcycle and the whole shit, yo.
So you've seen it too.
Hell yeah. Twice.
You got the Blu-ray and the special director's cut.
Hell yeah, I do. And I'm trying to run into so I can get my copy autographed, you heard?
Get out of here.
Complete garbage.
Infinite
Torture.
What's wrong with you, Mark?
We are here once again to do another edition of Infinite Torture. And man, this movie here lived up to the hype of Infinite Torture, not the hype of the movie. I'm sure when it came out, they thought it was going to be a great success, and it is, if you consider free on Tubi in 2025 to be a great success. Here you go. For those that are new to this, Infinite Torture is basically, mostly been movies. There was one time I played an album, but generally it's been a movie that I've never seen before that I have an outside interest in, and I'm hesitant to watch it because I think it's bad, or I don't think I would like it, or it's something that's just so out there that I would never really watch it unless somebody told me to. Nobody told me to watch The Burning. This is all self-induced torture. I was researching something, and this thing stumbled on my path. And it said that it was similar to Friday the 13th. And I'm a big Friday the 13th fan, so I was a little bit interested. I wrote it down, like The Burning. Let me see what this is. And there's two reasons why I wanted to watch it. A, if it really is like Friday the 13th, I should enjoy it. And B, I'm kind of curious to see if it actually is measured up to. Like, what about it is like Friday the 13th? I want to know. I really needed to know. I got curious about it, and I started thinking, let's just save this thing for Halloween and do it for the Halloween Infinite Torture. So here we go. Free on Tubi. And by the way, Tubi, throw some pennies my way, man. I mean, if it wasn't for Tubi, I don't know if this movie gets watched anywhere because it's free, and I'm the kind of dude who doesn't want to pay for Netflix, HBO Max, whatever. I'm all about give me the torture stuff for free on Tubi and Pluto TV, places I've watched a lot of these bad movies that I'm always amping up. Go check out Tubi. Salute to them. It'd be really cool if Tubi would just sponsor this thing, so every time I mention them, it pays off. Other than me just watching horrible stuff. So here it is, the horror film from 1981, The Burning. Let's get into this thing here, man. So the setting is Camp Blackfoot, which I assume has something to do with the guy getting burned. I don't know why they named it that, but there it is. Yeah, basically the beginning of the movie, it's a flashback to where there's a camp, there's a bunch of kids, and there's one guy in the camp cabin. He's sleeping. They decide to do a prank, and as you can imagine, the prank goes wrong. The cabin goes on fire. This guy gets burned to shit, runs out of the cabin, falls to the ground, rolls down the hill, and the campers who pulled the prank are, oh my God, things went bad. Of course they did. Why would you think that would have went good? Idiots. Why they are not arrested, for burning this guy, I don't know. They don't talk about that at all. So we go from that. We assume that he survived because then you don't have a movie. This is only the first 5 minutes into the movie, so something has to come of this. I'm guessing this burn guy's going to come back for vengeance, and that's exactly what they're setting up. They show a few years later, and he's in a burn unit. And I think we get our first death in this. I'm not 100% sure. There's two doctors going around. One's the veteran, one's the new guy. And the veteran's like, I want to show you this. Come check this out. And they just show the burn guy grabbing his arm, but then it cuts away. I don't know if this is because of Tubi or this is how the movie is. I assume at the very least he got a bad injury on his arm. He could have passed away from that. I don't know. And I had to write down, of course, because he was a black guy, he had to be the first to go. Your typical trope for a horror movie. Yikes. So the credits roll, and it says, Corky Burger presents. I'm just like, what the hell is Corky Burger? I've never eaten there before. Apparently, Corky Burger is a couple guys who make movies, all right? And this is what they came up with. I did see Tom Savini's name on there, who was part of the special effects, so that definitely got me interested. But then it said Harvey and Bob Weinstein. Wow, this must have been early on in their producer, movie-making days. Of course, we don't think of them the same way now, because which one is it, Harvey or Bob? Which one is the gross one? Or maybe they're both gross, but one of them, you really got in a lot of trouble with his issues with, let's just say, bothering women. Disgusting guy. So they're involved with this. So I don't know if that'll turn you on to watching it, or maybe like, I used to like those guys until I heard about them. Early on in their careers, this is one of the first movies they came up with. So then fast forwards a bit again, and this guy gets out of the hospital, and they tell him he's ready to go. He could do whatever he's got to do. They can't do more for him. He's ready to join society and live among the people. So it must have been about 10, 15 years have passed, because he was a young teen when this happened. Now he's apparently maybe in his 30s. I'm not really sure. Doesn't really tell you what the age is. But he goes out and he's released into the hooker district, because that's what they cut to. The first thing they show is a bunch of hookers and hotels. I don't know if he's in Amsterdam, but he kills a hooker. I don't know why. I don't know why they do that. But right away, that's what he does. He goes up to a room, and it's pretty gory, man. I mean, it's hard to watch. Not sure why he did all this. I guess it's just to show that he's an evil guy. But this is not revenge. I mean, she's not the one who lit the cabin on fire, so I'm not sure what's going on here. And then they cut to camp time. So very reminiscent of part 2 of Friday the 13th. All the counselors are gathered around the main counselor, and he's telling them the grim story about the killing that happened there. And it's actually probably the best scene in the whole movie, because it's really well done. The guy is really good at delivering the story, and then there's a little jump scare at the end of the story. So it kind of gets you in the mood for this. Like, all right, maybe this is going to be pretty good. George Costanza's in this. Jason Alexander. So if you wanted to watch a movie, if you're always thinking to yourself, I want to see George Costanza in a horror setting, here it is. I don't know if it's his first movie. He's probably very young in this. I don't know what his actual age is when this movie came out, but he looks like he's 34. He does not look like a teenager or a 20-year-old. He looks old already. So he's in this, and there's like some sort of softball game going on. Of course, the girls are barely wearing anything, and the guys are like, doing that thing. They're all just like Googling each other about how they're going to get these girls. The ball goes into the woods. You get a quick glimpse of the guy, sort of, the killer. He's holding some big garden shears. I just wrote down, it looks like Brutus the Barber Beefcake, because he's got these giant shears, like he's going to go trim some bushes. Oh, that's what Jason Alexander was looking to do. Hey! And you get your first, you got to have this in an 80s horror flick. You got to have boobs. There's a boob scene in here. So if you want that, you get a few of those in this movie throughout. And there's a fake out because the girl's taking a shower. You think that's the killer. A lot of these movies are kind of set up the same way. You don't see the killer. They're kind of lurking in the trees or the bushes, whatever. And sometimes you get like a fake out. And this one you do. There's some creepy guy named Alfred who kind of lingers around all the girls, and they don't like him. But he's always like, hey, he's just kind of hanging around. He's just hanging by the shower, which is outside. Kind of set up like where he might be the killer guy, but he's not burned, so it can't be him. So it's kind of weird that they're kind of doing this. It's more or less just for a fake out effect. There's a bully named Glazer. I hate this guy. This guy needs to die fast. He is very hateable right off the jump. I wrote down here, I'm yearning for a better movie. Instead of the burning, it's called the yearning. And I thought of that word because if you watch Seinfeld, again, Jason Alexander, who is a big star on it, there's a funny episode where him and Kramer are talking about, do you yearn? So I kept thinking of that as I'm watching this. And I was thinking like, yeah, I yearn. I yearn for a different horror film because this sucks. We're about 30 minutes into this. And yes, he's killed a hooker already, but that has nothing to do with the main storyline, so I'm kind of getting lost, and it just feel like I'm watching Porky's now. They're just at a camp, a lot of stupid stuff going on, guys oogling girls, your typical stuff going on in these type of movies. But yeah, there's zero likable characters in this. I mean, this guy, Alfred, I do remember this actor. I've seen him in something before and had to look it up. Yeah, it was Police Academy 4, Citizens on Patrol. I remember watching that. He was one of the skateboard kids, him and David Spade. If anybody who watches Police Academy movies, that guy plays Alfred. So he was a creeper before he was a loser in Police Academy 4. He is that total 80s, like, that he has that look of the guy who the girls don't like, but he wants to bother girls or play practical jokes. He's totally that guy. I wrote down here too many fake outs. There's a few of them. There's a lot of times you keep thinking the killer's there, and I'll be honest with you, like with Friday the 13th and Halloween, movies like that, even though you don't know who's doing it, things are happening. There's progression. There's people being offed or they're missing. There's a long lull here where nothing happens. Between the hooker and, 45 minutes into this thing, nothing happens. There's just a lot of fake outs, and they go canoeing. Yay. And they're playing banjo music while they're canoeing. This is where I wish Deliverance would show up. Why couldn't these canoers end up where the Deliverance movie ended up for those 4 guys? You got a pretty mouth, squeal like a pig. For those of you who haven't seen Deliverance, that movie's actually pretty scary. That's creepy as hell. Go watch Deliverance. There's another campfire story, again, about Blackfoot, and they tell the story about Cropsey, and that's the guy who was burned. So it takes a while to know the guy's name. I think they did mention it at the beginning, but I'll be honest, I didn't write it down. I didn't commit it to memory, so I wrote it down when they finally kept saying his name. And then, of course, there's a couple that decide to go skinny dipping, something I've never done. I've never swam in a lake, but if I'm going to do it, I'm not doing it naked. I saw Stand By Me. I don't want leeches on my dick. Like, it's not happening, man. I'm not swimming in a lake, man. It just seems gross. You don't know what's in there. And why would I do it naked? That's just, something go up on your... Nah, man, I can't even think about it. That's creeping me out more than this movie is. But of course, it's a bad idea because you know what's going to happen. Someone's going to come back. Their clothes are going to be gone. They're going to be running around naked in the forest. That's exactly what happens. I wrote down just a bunch of horny jerks. Yeah, every guy in this is talking about how many girls they're going to get. One guy is, ordering rubbers from the Jason Alexander character. I think that's Glazer. He's complaining about the quality of the rubbers. It's just so bizarre. This whole thing is just so weird, man. It's just, Friday the 13th had a lot of this kind of, locker room talk, I guess. But to the degree that these guys are doing, it's like really, really Porky's level type stuff. As I was talking about, they cut back now to the 2 skinny dipping, and the girl's very hesitant to do it. She's very nice. She doesn't want to be played by this dude, who I guess is like a womanizing jerk. And she is the first one off at the camp by Mr. Burn victim. That really sucks, because you usually root for the nice girl. That's the one that tends to last to the end. But no, she gets taken out pretty early. Pretty lame. And her name was Karen, by the way. So killer killed a Karen. Who would have known in 1981 that Karen would not have meant what it means now? But you say something about a Karen now, they're all over the place. They're bad people, and you wouldn't be so mad if a Karen disappeared. Killer killed a Karen. Do what you want with that. You know what they say a lot in this? Take it easy, huh? Total 80s slang. They say that a few times. I had to write it down. So apparently the canoes are missing, and they got to look for Karen. But they're trying to find these missing canoes. Where are the canoes? This is the big problem. This is the big plot point. Jason Alexander keeps wearing these, if you remember, in the 70s and 80s, they used to have these, generic, football shirts where they were, 2-colored. The main color is the chest, and then the sleeves would have another color. I'm actually wearing one now, and it's gray and black. But they would have a number on it. It's like a generic number. He always had 96. And he had 2 different shirts with 2 different colors, but they're both 96. I am to assume this guy is a defensive lineman or something. I don't know. But he's wearing them throughout the whole movie. And Glazer looks like he's 48. People in these 80s movies, they tend to look a lot older than they really are. But I think they did pick people that were older to play younger. But man, they look a lot older than 20. I wrote down because they're so focused on the boats that this is now turned into Summer Rental, which is a movie I'd rather watch with John Candy. That's a great movie. Go watch Summer Rental. Go watch Deliverance. I'm going to name a lot of other movies you should watch instead of The Burning. Friday the 13th. Go watch that instead. Sleepaway Camp. I wrote down, please, give me a Jason cameo and end this crap. Hurry up. Take these guys out. Take out this so-called killer, and let's end this movie. We need Jason in this. This thing is lacking like a threat. So we do get our big kill scene here towards the latter half of this movie. The canoes are missing because the people that are in them were killed by this dude. And there's 10 people in these canoes, and he just offs them all. It's really gory. There's a lot of gore in this. There's not a lot of kills in it, But when they do happen, they're really hard to watch, and it's very tough for me to sit there open-eyed, like, eating popcorn like it's nothing. I wrote down the sheer audacity, because he used shears to kill them. But it goes from, like, 1 or 2 people in the movie being killed so far to now it's like 10. So it jumps. I was complaining about nothing was happening. Okay, now a lot is happening. And the canoes are kind of floating off. They look like nobody's in them. The counselors find them, and what do they find? A bunch of dead bodies. They really could have cut some scenes in this thing to make it tighter, but it's only like 90 minutes, but it feels like 3 hours. I mean, you got to make it 90 minutes. So they had to fill it somewhere, but this thing really drags. They could have called this the sun burning because everybody's got tan lines. So Glazer shows up again, and I kept calling him the Blue Glazer. It's my second wrestling reference. I'm sorry, but eventually you'll get the Blue Glazer versus Brutus the Barber Beefcake with the shears. Glazer eventually dies. Hooray, hooray. We've been waiting for this the whole movie. Glazer is taken out with the shears. So all those bodies that were in the canoe and the raft, they show up to the camp, and the people on the shore finally realize what's happening. There's a really cool effect that they do with this red blood wipe over the screen where everything turns red. That was one of my favorite parts of the movie. I think the campfire part was really good, and so was this with the big red wipe over the screen. It really kind of makes things seem like it's going to another level of horror, so salute to them for doing that. Of course, there's no police. Nobody's calling for help. There's no interest in anything. The older counselors are inept. They're just like, huh? What's happening? Well, you told the story about the guy killing everybody. Well, the killing's happening. Why are you so surprised, dude? Yeah, what? Dinner in 3 minutes. Where's the canoes? So Alfred, I guess, is considered the final girl in this because he gets away from the killer and he runs away and he's stalked by the killer. So they kind of flip the script a little bit. There's no real final girl in this. It's Alfred. Alfred is the final girl, but there's another guy who also escapes being almost killed by him. You think he's left for dead, but he's not. His name is Todd. And he is also now chasing the killer to try to save Alfred. If you catch any of that, Alfred Todd, there's like a Batman reference in there, right? Hey, Rudy, right? Isn't it Jason Todd and Alfred? Is the killer's name Bruce? I don't know what it's... Because they end up in like this, not a cave, but some sort of like cavernous like building where it's really dark and, it's like set up with booby traps and stuff. So it kind of feels like Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom, which is like this thing that goes on a track that's supposed to collect like, I don't know, coal or something. Very, very crazy setup here at the end. It is finally revealed towards the end that Todd is one of the kids who lit the cabin on fire. So it's revenge on Todd. And I don't know if Cropsey is aware of Todd or any of the other ones. They don't really get into, there's no attendance taken, like which 5 or 6 jerks at the beginning of the movie are still here at this camp 15 years later. I don't really get the attendance count on that. I don't know who's present for that. But they definitely make sure that Todd was there at the beginning. And he's there at the end. So Todd wrecks him twice. He burns him the first time, and then he helps burn him the second time. Way to go, Todd. In Todd, we trust. But the suspense is drawn out. I mean, it's taken a while for something to happen. Alfred is put up against the wall, and he uses his shears onto his bicep to hold him to the wall. It's pretty gruesome stuff. He's stuck. He can't move. And Todd is walking around looking for him. But eventually, Todd and Alfred, they save the day. The burn victim guy, what's his name, Crosby or Cosby, whatever his name is, he's walking around with like, a big flamethrower thing, and they flip the script on him. He gets burned. Bad things happen to him, of course. And what do you know? He gets burned again. Not again! He's going to need some ointment at the end of this thing. The burn unit's going to really have to fight him some new lotions. But that's it. He dies. Everybody survives after that. I don't know if they ever thought of making a second one of these things. They kind of hint that he's still around. But, yeah, there's some good scenes in this. But, man, there's a lot of dull time in between. It kind of drags. They could have easily taken 30 minutes out of this and had like a really great 1 hour short, but I get it. You need a 90-minute movie, and I'm talking as much as they should have taken out of this. So let's go ahead and rate The Burning. There's a rating system I use. There's garbage cans, right? 5 garbage cans means it is the worst thing ever made. 1 or 2 cans means it's tolerable, and you can kind of do the math there. So I'm going to give this thing 3 garbage cans. It's right in the middle. There's some cool scenes. There's a couple of cool effects. I feel like there's a good premise here. They just didn't deliver on it, and it just has a lot of downtime in between. But it's kind of cool to see George Costanza running around trying to figure out what's happening. Although he's never even threatened to be killed. They got to keep him alive for the sequel, which they never made. Or I don't have to. I'll have to look up it. Is there even a thought they were going to make a sequel? But it's kind of cool to see George Costanza in a horror movie from the 80s when he looks like he's 34 playing a 20-year-old. I wonder how old he was on Seinfeld. He probably was actually only 34 when he filmed that. But on Seinfeld, he looks like he's 52. All right, so The Burning, we'll give it 3 cans. It's kind of right in the middle, man. There's a lot worse you could watch. There's definitely a lot better that you can watch. Go watch Friday the 13th if you want to watch a movie about a camp that's being overrun by some killer. There's a lot of Friday the 13th movies. Pick any one of them. Doesn't matter. They're all better than this. The Burning from 1981, free on Tubi, and free from me having to talk about it ever again. Is it garbage? Kind of, yeah.
Complete garbage.
Hey, man. It's Tommy McLaughlin. I'm the lead singer of The Sloss. And also, I'm Tom McLaughlin, writer-director of Jason Lives Friday the 13th, Part 6. I'm here to tell my friend Mark of Infinite Banter Podcasts. I got to tell you, man, you're the man. Love the show. And the rest of you guys, keep on listening, because the best is yet to come.
Time for you to leave, asshole.
That is Kirk Casavedo telling me to get the hell out of here, and that is exactly what I'm going to do. But before I get out of here, a couple quick things for this Halloween edition of the Infinite Banter podcast. When you hear the interview there with Warren Skeels, I do mention that I just watched The Fog, which is a John Carpenter movie. I had never seen it before, and about a week ago of me recording this, I watched it, and it's pretty cool. I mean, I've never heard of a concept where you could have like zombie pirates coming out of a fog and coming out to kill people in this town. So I thought it was a really cool movie. John Carpenter's that guy, man. Anything he makes, I can watch it. There's a few of his movies I have not seen. What I would say with The Fogs, it's definitely not in my top 3 or 4 John Carpenter movies. I mean, it's hard to get higher than Halloween, The Thing, They Live, Big Trouble in Little China, Escape from New York. Like, those are movies that probably top 5 John Carpenter movies. But I would say The Fog is like right there in the middle. So if you're doing a list of John Carpenter movies, let's say you pick your top 10, The Fog's got to be somewhere in that 5 to 7 area. It's got to be in there somewhere. And as I had mentioned with Warren, yeah, it was really cool that Tom Atkins, who was in Season of the Witch, Halloween 3, was also in this. Jamie Lee Curtis is in this movie. Jamie Lee Curtis's mom, Janet Leigh, is in it. You know her from Psycho. So it was a really cool cast and a really, really fun movie to watch. And it's not too scary, not too gory, but it definitely has its elements with The Fog. I mean, it's pretty crazy to think about that. You could be walking along the shore or something, and then some pirate guy will come grab you out of the fog. So definitely go check it out if you've never seen it. I think they made a remake of it. I'm tempted to watch it, but you know, I'm skeptical of these remakes. They're usually, first of all, they're never as good as the original. And number 2, I feel like they kind of ruined the original. I almost want to leave the original as it is and not see somebody else's rendition of it. It's very few remakes that I like. I do like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake with Jessica Biel's running around in that. I thought that one was pretty good with Arlie Ermy in it. It's like, I feel like that was a good remake. But for the most part, a lot of these remakes, they're disposable. Like that Nightmare on Elm Street remake was just god-awful. I didn't like the Friday the 13th remake. Some people do like it. I was kind of bored with it. But, yeah, I definitely like the Texas Chainsaw remake. I thought that was really well done. So I don't think I will get around to watching the Fog remake. Maybe I will, but I doubt it. So I also mentioned there's a movie that I watched recently that I completely had no idea that I would be watching it. So I didn't prep to talk about it on here. Just something I watched before I started recording this. And it kind of struck me because I'm kind of surprised I've never seen this movie. So like I said earlier, I went on Tubi like I normally do. What up, Tubi? Sponsorship, let's go. And I come across this movie called When a Stranger Calls. And I've heard of it before. I'm familiar with it. I'm aware of it. I didn't even know if I'd seen it. I started watching it. I'm like, I don't know if I've even seen this before. Let me press play because I don't know that I've seen this. I don't remember. And about 5 minutes in, I realized I had never seen this before. If it's possible that it was on in the house when I was a kid and I just didn't know about it, maybe. But I definitely do not remember watching this movie. Not at all. So it came out in 1979, and like all of these movies, there's a remake. I don't think I'll care about watching a remake, but whatever. Starring Carol Kane, who many of you remember from Taxi. She actually just popped up on a recent episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, doing scenes with Danny DeVito, which, if you're a Taxi fan, that was really cool to see. She has this funny line. She talks about she's rich because she has chicken money. This is totally unrelated to what I'm about to talk about, but she's great. She stars at the beginning of the movie and at the end of the movie. There's a middle part that kind of takes you away from what the movie is, which I'll get into in a second. And Charles Durning is in this. And I bring him up because he's that kind of guy you see in a movie and you're like, I know I've seen that dude. Where have I seen him? And I had to look it up. It's actually funny. I just saw him in a movie a year ago when I was doing this Halloween podcast. When I was talking about movies you should watch, I had like 10 of them. One of them was Dark Knight of the Scarecrow, and he always plays a cop because he has that build. He's kind of got like a little bit of a stomach. He just looks like a guy who should be behind a desk and doing some police work of some kind. So Charles Durning is in it. He's really good in this. And another thing about this movie, When a Stranger Calls, it made me think of the movie we talked about with Warren Skeels, The Man in the White Van. He'd mentioned the actresses trying to figure out how to use a rotary phone. There's a rotary phone in this quite a bit. So it's kind of cool to see a rotary phone in this. And like, yeah, I just talked about that. And it's in this movie. I got to bring it up now. Also, a cameo is in this by Ron O'Neal, who many of you remember him from the Superfly movie. So it's kind of cool to see him do something that isn't Superfly. So, shout out to Ron O'Neal. But yeah, the movie's kind of cool. It starts off, it kind of has like a Black Christmas vibe to it. Somebody's in the house and they're alone and the phone rings. And she has like this back and forth with answering the phone and picking it up. And this guy's breathing and talking about, did you check the children? Very creepy. But this part of it only goes about 20 minutes. And I thought this would be the whole movie. It's not. It's just the first like quarter of the movie. And then it turns into, the guy goes to prison because he murdered the kids. He didn't murder the babysitter, but he tormented her quite a bit. And he escapes from the mental institution. And then Charles Durning's character and Ron O'Neal, they're trying to figure out where he is so they can catch him. And that's about the middle part of the movie. And I feel like it's like two movies in one. You've got the creepy call aspect of it with the guy in the house. And then you've got this kind of detective story in the middle. Like I said, I kind of wish it was the whole movie, the whole phone call thing. It might be hard to pull that out for 90 minutes, but I really like that aspect of it. I wish they stuck with it more. But the middle stuff is fine. There's a girl that he sees, the killer guy. His name is Kurt. So the killer, he gets out of this mental institution. You finally see what he looks like because they don't show him when he's calling and harassing her about checking the kids. While he was calling from inside the house. That's what's creepy about it. I guess back in those days, some of you young people don't realize this. Not only were phones like hooked into walls, but you actually have like a second phone line in the same house that's connected to that wall. And most people didn't have that, so it wouldn't be something you would know about. So that's the thing. Like I'm thinking like, oh yeah, they had two phone lines. That's crazy. Why would they have that? But something that really kind of, just the nerd in me got me excited, being as somebody who likes movies and stuff. There's a bar that this creepo goes to. He starts bothering this girl in there. And it's called Torchy's. They showed the facade and the name on the front. It's like, I've seen that in a movie before, and I'm pretty sure it was 48 Hours. And I looked it up, and you're damn right it was at 48 Hours. And I just brought up 48 Hours with Confucius on the last episode. Oh, hell, convict, let's get us a beer. Go get Billy Bear and Gans. And apparently Torchy's, it's in Los Angeles. It's a bar. It's not there anymore, but it was a famous bar used in a lot of movies. Brewster's Millions used it. I got to go back and watch that movie with Richard Pryor and John Candy, one of my favorite movies between those two guys. And When a Stranger Calls, they have a lot of scenes where she's standing outside of Torchy's trying to get a cab and walking home. And this guy starts stalking her. So shout out to Torchy's. If I ever go to Los Angeles, there's no reason to go. It's just a parking lot now or something, or a garage. But it's pretty cool to see. I'm reading all the movies that were filmed there. Naked Vengeance, The Driver, Condor, apparently an episode of Cagney and Lacey. So it's a very, very well-known place. In 48 Hours, if you remember, that's when Eddie Murphy's character, Reggie Hammond, goes in there. It's the redneck bar. And, there's a new sheriff in town. So it's a really, really cool scene. But anyway, again, back to When a Stranger Calls. I thought it was a really cool, creepy movie. I like how the third act of the movie goes back to Carol Kane's character, because now she's grown up. She's not a babysitter anymore. Now she's married. She's got kids. She's got a house. And this creepo is walking the streets, finds a newspaper. Remember those? And her picture's on the newspaper article. And then he kind of puts two and two together that he can stalk her. He's like, oh, look at this old victim. I need to get back to that. So, Same routine. She hires a babysitter to watch her kids while she and her husband go out to eat, and all kinds of craziness happens, and don't want to spoil it for you. But definitely go check it out, When a Stranger Calls. If you like creepo, stalker-type movies, somebody might be in the house, they might not be in the house, somebody's calling you, you don't know what they're doing, go check it out. It's on Tubi for free, as well as The Burning. I know you're excited to see both of those. If I had to pick one, go watch When a Stranger's in the House. Kind of remind me of Maniac, but I don't know, much, more G version of that. Maniac is nuts. So there you go, a couple recommendations. Go check out The Fog. Go check out When a Stranger Calls. The Burning, The Man in the White Van. There's a lot of great stuff to go watch before Halloween wraps up here. And one last thing I forgot to mention about The Burning, the infinite torture that I did. They should make a remake of that. So I looked it up. Jason Alexander, who plays one of the main roles in that movie, was 22 when they filmed that. He does not look 22. He looks like he's 34. So that means on Seinfeld, it says Seinfeld started in 89. That would put him at about 29, 30 years old. He looked a lot older than 29, 30 years old. He was like balding and everything. He looked like he was like 44 in Seinfeld. So I'm not trying to crap on Jason Alexander. I'm just trying to say that it just seems like back then, Tommy Lee Jones, Morgan Freeman, these guys looked old all the time. And even when they're young, they looked like they're, in their 30s or 40s. So I was just curious, like, how old is Jason Alexander? Because he can't be 34 when they made this. That would make him like 90 now. So whatever. But yeah, again, thanks for checking out the show. Really fun doing these Halloween episodes. This is the fourth one I've done, like I said at the beginning. So really hyped to do a Halloween episode. We're trying to think of some ideas to do for like the last month. Like, who can I get on here? And when I was thinking about movies I really liked over the last couple of years, The Man in the White Van is right there at the top of the list. And I was like, let me see if Warren Skeels wants to come on. It was just an honor having him on here, and hopefully get him on again, talk about something he does in the future. But really excited to have him on and get some behind the scenes of The Man in the White Van. And he says he has a friend that's making a movie that's out pretty soon called Dolls. I definitely want to check that out as well. So yeah, there's so many great movies to watch. I'm just really hyped. This time of year, I get to watch a lot of horror movies, things I've never seen before, like The Fog, and, rewatch something like The Man in the White Van that I liked, but I wanted to rewatch it around the Halloween time to get in that feel. So, happy Halloween to everybody out there. Thanks for checking out the Infinite Banter podcast, which you can find on all platforms. Rate and review the show. Go on YouTube, type in Infinite Banter for clips and episodes. Check out the Things and Stuff videos. Check out our sponsor, super7.com/Infinite Banter podcast. And once again, thanks to Warren Skeels for coming on the show. Check out The Man in the White Van on Amazon Prime and Apple TV. If you're so inclined, feel free to watch on Tubi. It won't cost you anything. You can watch The Burning. It's not terrible. It's just kind of, it's 90 minutes, man. I mean, you got to figure out, do you have a 90-minute window that you'll be okay if you lose it? There's something better you could be doing, go do it. But if you're really looking for something to watch so you could understand why I was kind of riffing on it, go check it out on Tubi, and it doesn't cost you anything. So, and go check out Tommy McLaughlin movies like Jason Lives or One Dark Night. All right, that's it for me, the Infinite Banter podcast. Thanks for checking out the Halloween episode. Go have fun trick-or-treating, going to Halloween parties, eat some Reese's, get some pumpkin coffee. Man, I definitely need a pumpkin something. Maybe I'll go get some pumpkin, some coffee. I'm going to raid my daughter's bag when she comes home with it anyway. So the Reese's and Snickers are for me. She could have all the other stuff. So I do another one of these. Happy Halloween. I'm out.
Hey, asshole, get off the road.
Being on the Infinite Banner with my man Mark has been a pleasure.